Before we start, please make sure to like this video and hit this subscribe button, so you never miss a story like this. And also comments where you are watching from, how many sons and daughters you have. Thanks. My name is Evelyn Carter, and I may be old, but I'm not invisible. You can't sit here, ma'am, the waiter snapped, his tone as cold as the iced water he had just slammed on the next table. This is the VIP section. I had just pulled out the chair, settled my handbag neatly on my lap, and was reaching for the menu when he came barreling toward me like I'd broken in through the kitchen. 1 second I was enjoying the soft jazz playing overhead, and the next, I was being asked to leave like I didn't belong. "Excuse me?" I said, startled. "This area's for our high-end guests only. If you'll follow me, I can get you seated in the general dining area." He waved his hand like I was a lost child. I wasn't even offered a glass of water. I sat there, stunned. A woman at the next table, young, blonde, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown, leaned over just enough to smirk. "They don't usually let people just walk in here," she whispered. "You have to have a reservation, or know someone." "I do have a reservation," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "Under the name." "Doesn't matter," the waiter cut in, shaking his head. "We don't seat unaccompanied seniors in this section unless it's been cleared." "I'm sorry, but you'll need to move." I could feel the heat rising in my chest. My face flushed red, not with embarrassment, but with something deeper. Something hotter. "You think just because I have white hair and a soft voice that I don't have a backbone?" I didn't say anything right away. I just looked around, at the marble floors, the gold-plated nameplates, the kind of place that thinks linen napkins make you better than other people. Then I stood up. Slowly. Deliberately. And I said loud enough for the entire room to hear. "Let me get this straight. You're kicking me out because I don't look like the type of person who belongs here?" His jaw clenched. "No one's kicking you out. I'm just asking you to sit." "In the back," I snapped. "Where the people you think are less important go." A hush fell across the section. A few heads turned. The blonde woman suddenly found her wine glass very interesting. And that's when I said, "Okay then. I'll just call the manager." He laughed. The boy laughed. "Ma'am, calling your son won't change restaurant policy." I gave him a long look. Then I pulled my phone out of my purse and dialed. 1 ring. 2. Then he answered. "Caleb? Hi, sweetheart. I'm at your restaurant. And apparently, your mother isn't fancy enough for the VIP section." You should have seen the waiter's face change. First confusion. Then dread. The staff door flew open at the back of the room, and there he was. My son. Caleb Carter. CEO. Owner. Self-made restaurateur who worked his way up from dishwasher to downtown mogul. Tall. Sharp suit. Eyes like mine, steely when provoked. "Mom," he said, marching through the dining room. "What happened?" He hugged me before I could answer. Then he turned to the waiter. "This your section?" The guy nodded, trembling now. "Is there a reason my mother, the woman who took 2 buses across town to bring me dinner during my night shifts, the woman whose name is on the foundation plaque in the lobby, was told she doesn't belong here?" She didn't look like," he mumbled, glancing at the blonde, as if she'd help him. "That's your problem," Caleb said, stepping closer. "You look. But you don't see." He turned to the hostess. "Get this man off the floor. Now." The waiter was gone before I could even blink. The manager came out. The executive chef followed. Suddenly everyone wanted to offer me appetizers, wine, dessert on the house. But I didn't want their food. I wanted them to know I wasn't ashamed. "You know," I said, looking around at all their uncomfortable faces. "I didn't come here to prove a point. I came to see my son's new restaurant." I looked at the blonde woman. "But I guess for some people, that's not enough. You have to wear the right shoes." Be the right age. Know the right people. She looked down. I didn't. Because I've earned every wrinkle. Every gray hair. Every meal at every table. And no one, gets to tell me I don't belong. Especially not in a place my son built with his own hands. So I sat down. Right where I started. And this time I ordered dessert first. Because life is too short to wait for people to realize your worth. Sometimes, you just have to remind them. And today? I did. When Caleb was 10 years old, he sold lemonade on the sidewalk every summer. Not for toys, not for games, but because he wanted to help me pay the rent. He'd come home with a crumpled dollar or two in his fist and beam like he'd struck gold. And I'd hold that sweaty little bill and cry in the kitchen when he wasn't looking. Because no mother wants her son to worry about things like electricity and eviction notices. I raised him alone. His father left before his second birthday. Said he wasn't ready to be a dad. Well, I wasn't ready to work 3 jobs and go to parent-teacher conferences half asleep either, but I did it. Because that's what mothers do. We show up even when no one else does. We lived in a small apartment above a laundromat. Our furniture didn't match. The floor creaked when you walked too fast. But it was home. It smelled like cinnamon toast and detergent, and laughter still found its way in. And Caleb? He never complained. He used to sit at the kitchen table while I ironed uniforms and say, "One day, Mom, I'm gonna have a place with big windows. Real tablecloths. The kind of place you deserve to eat in." I'd laugh. "Just promise me you'll let me in without a reservation." He'd smile with that same dimple he has now and say, "You'll never need one." Funny how the world forgets. Funny how quickly they size you up by your shoes, your purse, the way your hands shake a little when you pour water. That waiter didn't see the woman who stayed up all night sewing patches on her son's pants so he wouldn't be embarrassed at school. He didn't see the woman who used to walk past restaurants like this with her son and whisper, "Someday, Caleb. Someday." He just saw an old woman sitting alone. And in his mind, that meant less. But my son knew better. He didn't just build a restaurant, he built it on grit, and grace, and everything we survived together. And when he walked me to the kitchen that day, away from the whispering guests and the pitying stares, I saw it in his eyes. He remembered, too. "Why didn't you tell them who you were, Mom?" he asked softly. I touched his face. Because I wanted to see who they thought I was. That's the truth, isn't it? Life doesn't test you when things are easy. It tests you when no one's watching. When people treat you like you're disposable, just another body in a chair they'd rather wasn't there. But respect isn't about titles or money or silk napkins. It's about character. And I would rather eat dinner in a greasy diner with someone who sees my worth than in a palace full of people who only see my wrinkles. So yes, I called the manager. But more importantly, I raised him. I wasn't trying to make a scene. All I wanted was to sit quietly, enjoy my iced tea, and wait for my son to finish his meetings. But sometimes, life won't let you sit quietly, sometimes, it hands you a microphone whether you want one or not. After Caleb escorted me back to the private lounge, I could still feel their stares. The whispers didn't stop. I wasn't even fully seated when I heard one of them, a woman in red, the one with more diamonds than sense, lean across to her friend and say, just loud enough for me to hear, "I don't care whose mother she is. This isn't a soup kitchen." The other one giggled behind her champagne glass. If I looked like that, I'd hide in the back too. Honestly, she brought down the whole vibe. My hands curled around the cloth napkin. I counted to 3. Then 5. I'd learned, over a lifetime, how to hold my head high. But some days, the old wounds sting sharper than they should. I stood up slowly. Walked right to their table. And I smiled. A soft, polite, grandmotherly smile. The kind that makes people underestimate you, right before you break them with truth. "Excuse me," I said. I couldn't help but overhear your little performance. And since you put so much energy into talking about me, I figured you might want the chance to speak to me." The red dress woman blinked fast. Her friend just looked stunned. "I know I don't fit the mold of who you think belongs here," I continued. "I don't have a designer bag or frozen cheeks. I walked in alone, didn't order wine, and wore flats instead of heels. In your world, I'm invisible." I leaned in just a little. "But let me tell you who I am. I'm the woman who raised the man who built this place from scratch. The man who signs every paycheck in this building, including the one for the waiter who tried to shoo me out of my son's own VIP section." Now their mouths were parting, but no words came out. I wasn't done. "I'm also the woman who scrubbed motel bathrooms at night so my son could eat breakfast in the morning. The woman who never had a spa day, never wore silk, and never cared, because love was more important than luxury. And today? I came here thinking I'd be proud of what he's built." I paused. But instead, I'm disappointed. The whole room was quiet now. Waiters had stopped in their tracks. I didn't care. Let them listen. Because a place like this, with all its shine and sparkle, means nothing if it can't recognize dignity when it walks through the door without heels or diamonds. I looked right at them. "You looked at me and saw someone beneath you. That's your mistake. Not mine." With that, I turned and walked away. I could hear them fumbling, sputtering, something about a misunderstanding, about not meaning it that way. But it didn't matter. Because in that moment, I didn't just speak for me. I spoke for every woman who's ever been overlooked. For every single mother who had to smile through shame. For every grandmother who gave up everything, and was still treated like she didn't belong. And just as I reached the table again, something incredible happened. Applause. It started small, a soft clap from the pastry chef by the counter. Then another. And another. Until the whole staff was clapping. Even some guests joined in. I looked up and saw Caleb, watching from the balcony. His eyes were glassy. He smiled. And mouthed, "That's my mom." After the applause faded and the room returned to its expensive hush, Caleb came downstairs. He didn't say a word at first. Just walked up to me and wrapped his arms around my shoulders, the way he used to when he was little and didn't want to let go. He whispered, "Come with me, Ma." We stepped into his private office. Sleek, modern, elegant, the kind of room that smelled like wealth and wood polish. But as soon as the door shut, it wasn't the CEO of a high-end restaurant standing in front of me. It was my son. He pulled out a chair for me. Sat across from me. His jaw clenched like he was holding something back. "I'm sorry," he said. I shook my head. "You didn't do anything wrong." "No," he said, firmer now. "But I should have made sure they knew who you were. I should have told them. Trained them. Done something." I looked at him. Really looked. He wasn't just upset because I'd been embarrassed. He was upset because something he built had hurt the person who built him. "You can't train people to have a heart, Caleb," I said quietly. "That has to come from inside." He leaned forward, elbows on the table. "You know what kills me? When I was opening this place, I kept telling the team, make it beautiful. Make it modern. Make it elite. But I forgot to say, make it kind." I smiled. "That's because you thought it was obvious." He looked down, fiddling with a gold pen on his desk. "Ma, can I tell you something I never said before?" I nodded. He looked up at me, and for a second, I saw the 10-year-old boy who used to draw blueprints of pretend restaurants on the back of cereal boxes. There were nights I used to fall asleep wondering if we'd have to move again. I'd pretend I didn't hear you crying behind the bathroom door. But I heard every tear. He swallowed hard. And I told myself, if I ever made it, if I ever had enough money to change things, I'd make sure you'd never feel small again. Never feel like less. I reached across the table and placed my hand over his. "I never felt small, Caleb." Not when I had you. He shook his head slowly, voice breaking. But I made it, Ma. I really did. And then tonight, the one person I owed everything to, you, walked into my world, and they tried to push you right out of it. And I froze. I didn't know what to say. You said the most important thing, I said. You saw me. You listened. That's more than most ever do. We sat in silence for a moment. Then he said something I'll never forget. You know how people keep asking me who my first investor was? Who gave me my startup capital? He smiled softly. They don't believe me when I say it was my mother's hands. I blinked. What? He stood and walked over to a side shelf. Picked up a small glass case. Inside it was a faded white apron, threadbare and stained from years of use. He placed it gently in front of me. I kept it, he said. From the diner you used to work at. I remember the day you came home, hands raw from washing dishes, and you still made me dinner like it didn't hurt. That apron? It built this. I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. All these years. I'd worried about not giving him enough. Not being enough. But here he was, sitting in a room I never thought I'd belong in, telling me I was his foundation. Not his burden. His starting line. I walked out of that office with my back straighter than when I came in. Funny how dignity can do that, patch you up better than any doctor could. And just as I reached the main dining floor again, there she was. The lady in red. Still seated in the VIP section, still nursing her drink like it was the crown jewel of the evening. But when she saw me, her smile faltered. And then her eyes widened, because she saw who was walking beside me. Caleb. He didn't need to say anything. He just placed his hand gently on the small of my back, like a gentleman escorting royalty. And for the first time in that entire evening, the room watched me, but not with ridicule. With respect. The woman in red stood up awkwardly. Excuse me, she called out. I didn't realize who you were. I turned to face her. She looked like she expected me to yell. Or humiliate her the way she'd tried to do to me. But I didn't. I simply said, you didn't need to know who I was to treat me with kindness. That's where you went wrong. Her mouth opened, then closed. Nothing came out. Not even a weak apology. Because she knew I was right. I turned back to Caleb. You don't have to walk me out, baby. I know you've got a full restaurant to run. He nodded. Only if you promise me something. What's that? Next time you come here, wear the same sweater. Sit in the same seat. And let them try again. But this time, they better know better. I laughed softly. I might just come back in pajamas now that you say that. He kissed my forehead, the way he did when he was little. Then I stepped toward the exit, passing by the host stand one last time. That young hostess, the one who judged me on sight, couldn't even meet my eyes. So I paused. And said, you know, honey, next time an older woman walks in looking tired, don't assume she's lost. Maybe she built the place you're standing in. Then I handed her something. A little note I'd written on a napkin from Caleb's office. She took it, confused. It read. The seat you offer someone today might be the one you need tomorrow. Choose kindness. And with that, I left. But I didn't leave empty. I left full, with love, with pride, with the quiet knowing that no matter how the world may try to size me up or push me out, I raised a man who makes room. And that, right there. That's what legacy looks like.